that froze, so we must have counted more than 4 seconds since then. Right, another lightning talk. Welcome to the lightning talk track. I'm here with Laszlo Fogas. Hi, Laszlo.
Hey, Mark.
Quickly, we need to give you a proper applause. But before I do that, today you're going to be talking about one does not simply build her own Heroku, drawing on probably one of the most famous memes in software development. Let me get the crowd to applaud you in.
Thank you.
Please take it away.
All right, let's do this. So I'm Laszlo Fogas, and the title, as you heard, one does not simply make her own Heroku. It's the wrong movie, I know, but later on you will see the right memes as well. So, little context. I've been a freelance DevOps consultant in the past 3.5 years, and basically what I was doing is I was building internal service platforms. And besides that, I was also very active in the Nordics, the Scandinavian cloud native community, started the Copenhagen chapter as well. So that's what I've been doing. And typically an engagement started out like the mandate, like build us a Heroku, either said explicitly or just implicitly. You just gather the information. Basically, what they wanted is like one-click deployments, using Cloud X because that's their preference, using containers, Kubernetes, and all those nice CNCF and other open source projects out there. And besides that, the underlying motivation was like, make us deploy faster, make us better at monitoring. And, while you are doing this, spread the DevOps culture. So it's pretty standard stuff. And why do they think that they can build their Heroku now? Well, I've been guilty of this myself. Like a couple of years back, I was also advocating this, that with the recent innovation in the ecosystem, now developers don't have to file a ticket and wait days or weeks to get their new environment up and running. They can just place a few YAML files into their code repository and off they go. Everything is automated and they can get on with their work. Well, it hasn't been a false promise. It is possible, but it's also a lot of work. And I just found myself this January at the place where my previous contract ran out, and I was starting a new project, and here I was after a 12 months project where everything was so comfortable, everything was automated, and here was I had to start everything from scratch, pulling those projects down. There are not many defaults in them, and everything felt a little bit rough after spending so much time with the previous client. And then in this sentiment, this tweet found me at the right moment from Kelsey. Basically, this is just maybe it's not even a complete list of all the tools you have to install and wire together to get these platforms up and running. And maybe your list is different, but definitely not shorter. And it's not just the tools; it's the glue that you have to put in between them. That's actually not it's quite a lot of work. And here was another tweet, just quoting the previous one, that if you really think about it, those requirements are not unique in any meaningful way. Maybe 20% is unique, but the rest is standard things that every company implement if they choose this stack. So it means a lot of glue implemented at every company. And in this talk, I'm just going to go through some of the items from this list, and namely Prometheus, a little bit of CI, and my favorite topic, GitOps, just showing how things are not that easy. So, but before going there, I'm not a service mesh expert, but this also reveals in this tweet that, when you looked at those service mesh demos, you've been getting the impression that service meshes are magic and they're giving you everything. And I was quite surprised when I tried it out that, for example, those nice traces, like those nice demos, when the traffic was flowing through the platform and you could see and just get an idea of the traffic, it's just not coming out of the box. You still have to change your applications. You still have to add those headers into your application. So there is, even though service meshes are supposed to be super magical, you still have to do work to get them up and running. But back to the main topics. So metrics. If I say metrics, the community's response is most likely Prometheus. There are many package solutions or SaaS services out there, but the open source solution is Prometheus. And I'm not here to just bash Prometheus because I quite like it. As a DevOps person, it's a nice platform for me. The amount of metrics is just staggering. I have the right visibility. I can scale it. I know PromQL by now, so it's not a big effort for me to just come up with a random query. There are alerts, so I'm just kind of a happy camper. But then when I have to onboard developers on Prometheus and PromQL specifically, I'm just getting anxious a little bit because maybe basic examples are easy to understand, but whenever I go in Grafana and click edit and I show them what queries are powering their dashboards, I see their faces that it's not that easy looking at it first time. So and let's keep in mind, developers have other responsibilities as well, not just infrastructure. They are in product meetings, they are in user experience meetings, all kinds of meetings, and infrastructure is not necessarily their darling like ours, or at least mine. And then I also have to admit that some type of Prometheus queries are not that easy. For example, every time I have to write a join query on Prometheus or do a label replace, it just takes time. I don't do this every day, and every couple of months I have to do it. It's just a little bit painful experience. And then they ask about how to set up alerts, and then I'm like getting overly anxious right there because I just know that the workflow is just not up to par with packaged offerings out there. So how does alerting goes? Well, first of all, you have 3 different systems. You have Prometheus, you have the alert manager to maybe mute or silence your alerts, and you have Grafana. So that's already 3 things to remember, 3 entry points to just one workflow. And then I tell them that you write your PromQL query, and then you put that into a YAML file, the alerts YAML file, which is then deployed by CI, and then which restarts Prometheus. It's like quite a thing to have just a very simple workflow. And I just leave this animation right here, and I think you get the point. Like in Grafana, like setting up alerts is like this, and this is how it should be really. There is a chart, there is a red line, above that it's an alert, below that everything is normal. That's great, but the problem is you just can't use, for example, Alert Manager as a backend for this user experience. Also, it's using Grafana's alerting semantics. So it's not Prometheus all the way. And at this point, you pull down Prometheus, built a bunch of dashboards from scratch, you did the alerts, you did the automation, you're quite happy about all this. But at the end of the day, you realize you just have 2 alerting workflows because you have yours in the YAML file, and developers just use Grafana because it's easier for them. And you also realize that even though you have built a bunch of common dashboards for developers, they have custom needs. And honestly, not many developers just go and build or change existing dashboards. So you just have to help them out from time to time. And so that was all about Prometheus. I don't want to bash them even more because I think it's a great system. I just want to just highlight a few more pain points of mine. So I could go into CI, but I'd rather not because CI is custom for every company. Everybody is putting their culture in there in shell scripts and whatnot. So let's just go to one of my favorite topics, which is GitOps. I'm lighting up as well. So GitOps, it's the new trend. I like it. It took me some time to start appreciating it, but once I tried it out, it really started to click for me. So I'm a happy camper as well with GitOps as well, but it's just not that easy that you just deploy Flux and then off you go, because GitOps is quite Flux is quite unopinionated about its folder structure. So you have to come up with that. If you have a folder structure, now you have some workflow requirements you have to support, how you promote code from or artifacts from one environment to the other one. You have to write code to copy those files or start new environments and so on. And you may even need some automation to trigger those workflows, maybe a CLI, maybe a UI, maybe you put that into CI, but it's just not that simple. And actually it is simple. It's just that every company has to write all the same code. And just a few more tweets. This one is actually 3 years old. That essentially what we are doing here is that we are taking 1 million components, we put them together like Lego bricks, and we build a nice castle. But we are basically building a platform as a service here. And I'm even guilty of building my own templating engine. I did that a couple of times in the past because the boilerplate you have to have for a Kubernetes service to be deployed is just too much. So I try to reduce that. So I am guilty of building a platform as a service. And I may be also guilty of this one, that people just want a pass probably, but it has to be built by them. It's a little bit of an exaggeration, but what is it really? And then, on one end, there are servers. They are quite unopinionated. You can put stuff on them. And on the other end, there are the full-blown platforms as a service. And I was just looking at that dichotomy, like one end, open source projects, building blocks. On the other end, super opinionated platforms that you can just buy in and use. And with this talk, I think one of my points and one of my state of mind is that maybe it's not just a simple contradiction. Maybe it's a spectrum of services. Like all these dots could represent opinions of members of our community who package things together, who make a mashup of existing projects, provide good defaults, good packaging. And suddenly you might find an abstraction which you're comfortable with. And just a few examples. I like how Grafana moves into this space because Grafana, providing the 3 legs of observability, they are providing essentially a UI for Prometheus by now. Also, they just introduced UI for traces as well. So Prometheus is stepping into this void. And I was just asking a random question on Twitter, and apparently, eventually, maybe the Prometheus or the Alert Manager backend will be used in Grafana as well. That would be super cool if you ask me. Another great example, just a few days old, is PromLabs. One of the Prometheus founders started a new company solving the UX problems around Prometheus. And I'm here to welcome that effort because he also started a Twitter thread, and all those pain points I highlighted were popping up in that thread quite heavily. And then if I'm just going on with ideas, why isn't out there Grafana and Prometheus presets for Google Cloud? I would love to have those things and just have charting and dashboarding and alerts ready for me whenever I need them. Also, there is an open source project there. And with GitOps, it's the same. I implemented my solution, but then I realized there is this open source library, which is essentially doing the same stuff I was doing. It's just little differences. So why don't these solutions are more promoted in the ecosystem? That's my question. And so maybe it's not a real either/or question. Maybe with the right abstractions, maybe with the right opinions, we can find a platform that is that can be fine-tuned for our needs quite cheaply and quite flexibly. I'm just hoping those dots to exist. And so I'm Laszlo CPH on Twitter. These are the kind of tweets I am sharing there and the kind of rants I'm having. And full disclosure, I'm also trying to build one of those dots because I think we need more of those dots. So thank you very much. That was it.
Thanks, Laszlo. And in case you or the attendees are wondering, Jesus, what happened to Mark? We just did a little switcheroo while you were giving your talk. Unfortunately, we won't be able to do the Q&A because we are running a bit late for the next speaker, but I hope you stay with us on Umbrella.
Absolutely.
So, amazing. So if there are any questions, drop them there. Try to schedule a meeting with Laszlo, and then he'll answer your questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.